Welcome to my channel. My name is Priska, and if you enjoy cultivating your personal style, then you're going to love it here. Last year, I made a short video about body shapes that has garnered almost 500,000 views. Thanks for that, by the way. In that time, it has also gotten about 500 comments, and there are certain predominant themes to those comments. The most common one is that I thought I was that body shape, but I'm actually this body shape. So if you've ever been surprised by your shape, or if you just flat out disagree, then this video is for you. The top 5 reasons why you don't think that you're the body shape that you are when you see yourself in the mirror are your silhouette, the difference between frontal view versus profile view, whether you measure your shoulders or not, clothes, especially the trending clothes, and lastly, body changes. So I want this video to help clarify what your body shape is, why you see yourself differently, and how you can use this information to flatter your figure. Let's begin. The first thing that might alter what you see in the mirror versus what you measure as your body shape is your silhouette. Silhouette typically is referring to the shape that your outfit makes. So if we took your shape and just colored it in with black and made the background white, then you would see a distinct silhouette. And depending on the clothes you like to wear, that's going to alter the way that you perceive your body. So if you like oversized clothes, then your silhouette is going to be much more vague and less defined, which means that you might be an hourglass, but you think of yourself more as a rectangle shape. If you wear sharp lines across your hips, such as a lower waist than your naturally defined waist, or if you're wearing shorts or mini skirts, it can make your hips look larger. Similarly, depending on the lines of your top, you can make your bust look larger or smaller. You can really manipulate a lot of the view of your body just by the clothes that you're wearing. And that might be tricking you into thinking your body shape is different than it actually is. Now I cover all of the foundations of body shapes in my video that I will link at the end of this one. So if you haven't watched that one and you don't have a base knowledge of the body shapes, then be sure to watch that one next. The second thing that might be altering your perception of your body shape is a frontal view versus a profile view. Now, body shape measurements are more about the frontal view, and that's definitely how you're looking at yourself straight on in the mirror. But the frontal view only shows a 2-dimensional image, whereas your body is obviously 3-dimensional. If you've ever seen one of those pregnancy videos where the girl doesn't look pregnant and then she turns to her profile view and she has a big old belly, then you know exactly what I mean. This difference is also seen in bust sizes because we mostly wear bras. Now, no woman's boobs look like they do naturally as they do in a bra. The way bras work, they kind of smush them together, and so it looks more narrow than it is, but when you turn to the side, you can see the full dimension of the bust. So it doesn't really make sense to not factor that in because that's already the base layer under all the clothes you're wearing. So it really just depends on your lifestyle, how you do it, but that's my reasoning behind it. And speaking of controversial measurements, let's move on to the next one. To measure shoulders or not. If you've played around enough with the body shape calculators, then you might realize that some of them ask you to measure your shoulders and some of them do not. I think this probably goes back to traditionally dressmaking when you would just have a bust line and shoulders were pretty much standard for women based on their shape. But for me, it very much makes a difference. I have quite muscular, broad shoulders, and it's from decades of working out. It's not genetic. If I was born 50 years prior, before women went to the gym, before people just went to the gym who were non-athletes, then I wouldn't have broad shoulders and I'd be pear-shaped and would dress differently for that. And this is an area I've ruminated on quite a bit because I think it's analogous to like your psychology. So stay with me. You can be genetically predisposed to your shape and size, where you carry your fat to muscle ratio. You can be predisposed to that, but it doesn't mean it's predetermined what your shape is going to be at any point in time. You live in a different point in time than your parents, your grandparents, and anyone previously before you. So your genes can express differently than your ancestors' genes have ever expressed before. And this is where I start to see some parallels. If you have any kind of family dysfunction in any way, it does not mean that you are predetermined to have that same dysfunction in your life. Health problems, poor relationship habits, bad money habits, these are all things that are changeable if you have the right strategy and put in the hard work to change them. So when people say things like, all the women in my family marry bad men, or everyone in my family gets heart disease, or we're just always going to be poor. These may have been true in the past, but they're not genetic defaults. They're not absolute truths of your future. Instead, they are generational, they're habitual, and almost always they're environmental. I've made a lot of changes in my life to set me up differently than what I've seen expressed in my family before, because I want to rise on their shoulders and give my children a future where they can rise on mine. So if you're really interested in how your habits can form your life and how to have better habits, then I would recommend the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. I think I read it a few years ago, and there's not a single week that goes by that I don't think about how I'm developing habits because of that book. It's the daily work to create and sustain healthy habits. That's how you change your life. And you have to believe that whatever your genetic predisposition is, it is not what is going to determine your future. This has probably gone too far down the rabbit hole, but I just want to mention there are just such beautiful people in my life who have helped me, just inspired me and show me that you can grow past the circumstances of your life, the cards you were dealt. You can become whatever you want to be. And one of those is my sweet Aunt Heather, who sent me these flowers. I don't typically put flowers on the floor, but I just thought these were too pretty not to put in this video. And I hope one day I can put flowers on my budget for every video. I've been trying to explain to my husband it's a business expense, so it basically just doesn't even count, but he doesn't seem to get it. Clothes can absolutely change the way you see your body shape, especially if you lean towards the trends. And I'm not saying dive headfirst into whatever is the most fashionable, but if your waist rise has changed over the last couple of decades, which I presume most people's has, then that's definitely going to alter the way that you see your body shape. A really good example of this I saw on the fashion runway recently. Tory Burch was showing these dresses that had low waist, not just low waist, but drop waists with bubble hems. And what that's doing is creating fuller looking hips in these models that tend to be very narrow framed. In fact, all of the runway designers from Carolina Herrera to Bottega to Fendi to Givenchy, they're all playing with sculptural volume this season. And that can make it confusing on what looks particularly flattering on a more average sized woman's body. So I'm working on the spring trends video right now. Be sure that you're subscribed to my channel so you know when that comes out, and you can find out what fashion trends are actually flattering. But just a note on what flattering means. Typically, it means looking balanced, as in there are imbalances in your figure, so we can correct that with clothing. However, you might not want to correct it. You might want to exaggerate it like I do. I have a short torso compared to my legs, and I actually like to exaggerate that by an extra high rise. It's not balanced, but it just feels more me. It feels more sassy. It feels a little bit more unique, and I like the way it looks on my body. But the reason we talk about flattering and balancing is because you need to be able to visualize and analyze what's happening with these clothes. How is it altering the way that your body looks? And then at least you know your options. What I don't want is for all of us gorgeous, uniquely created women to all wear the same fashion trends and then criticize our bodies because we can't pull it off the way someone else does. That's why it's so important to recognize what clothing is doing to your shape, whether that is flattering it, exaggerating it, or maybe unflattering it. So the things that will change the way that you see your body shape are your silhouette, your frontal view versus profile view, whether you measure your shoulders or not, the clothes you wear, especially if you're wearing trendy clothes, and lastly, body changes. Your body shape is changing constantly. I think we all know that. But then there are those changes that happen all at once. We all go through puberty and start to develop curves. Some women go through pregnancy and that greatly alters your body. And lastly, menopause. And that's the change that we all experience differently, but it leads to very similar results, a flattening of those curves. So when we talk about body shape, it isn't I am this shape, it's my body currently is this shape. And the key difference is you're currently a shape. That does not mean that you were previously, and it does not mean you will be in the future. In fact, you'll probably be several shapes of your lifetime. So that's another layer of confusion, I think, with body shapes, is that if you don't neatly and tidily fit into one category, then it can seem like it's not a real thing. But the point of body shapes, or I think any type of typecasting, is not just to have one word that you identify with that you have a stronghold on, but rather a deeper understanding. And for me, that's all about dressing better according to my shape. It's like personality. Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Are you an ambivert? Well, sometimes that can express differently depending on your life circumstances. Like if you're an introvert, but all day you're in silence, like you work in a library, then maybe when you get home, you want to be very chatty with people. And maybe during your lifetime, you see some changes. Like I was definitely quite introverted as a child. And then when I was in my teenage years, my 20s, I was highly extroverted. Some people said I was the most extroverted person on earth. And now I find myself much more quiet and reflective, but I would still consider myself extroverted because I recharge from talking with people. Hence, I have a YouTube channel and I love seeing your comments. But sometimes these personality changes don't resonate. Like I've taken probably a half dozen tests, and the one that resonates the most with me is Enneagram. I'm an Enneagram 8 challenger, and you may have noticed this if you understand Enneagram, that I like to challenge people's beliefs to help them to grow. I like to offer alternate perspectives. Enneagram has been something I really identify with, just like I currently identify with hourglass shape very well because my figure shows me that. But as your body changes, you're going to see that there are times when it's a little bit gray. There are times when you're a shape that you never expected to be. And so it's important to know all about the body shape so that you can adjust for those times instead of living in your past version of yourself. So that's why I would recommend that you watch my body shapes video next. I will link that here. I will see you next week with a brand new video. So until then, I hope you take care.